Welcome back to the shop. We got some good news on this 74 here. We finally finished the rear trailing arms and the bearings and all that. So now we're going to install the rear brace. We've got our differential sitting over here looking pretty. Got our optional speed direct rear cover for the shark bite rear suspension. So stay tuned and we'll start putting this shark bite setup in this C3. All grade 8 bolts and hardware all set up, ready to roll. We got some spacers and all. We got the pivot points for the coilover mounting hardware, all that stuff. So we'll get this thrown up in the car and get this baby ready to roll. So now we're going to use the 2.5 inch bolt. We're going to secure the upper bracket in place. So it's going to go something like that. So let's get it started. So I'm just gonna tack these in for now. We'll do a final install once we have it all mocked up and aligned right. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the other one in next. I have it all aligned and mocked up, then I'm gonna take these bolts back out and actually clip the Loctite on it. There we go. Now here's what we're looking like. We got these brackets set up. As you can kind of guess, these will bolt in place here. I may go ahead and slide those countersunk screws in place just to help with alignment, and then we will continue. Looks like these inner bolts are going to have to be cut down because they were too long with this speed direct cover, so something to consider. You know, you may have to trim up some bolts, but we'll see what we have to do in a minute. These support struts have to be clearanced to clear this differential cover, so that kind of sucks because you have to ruin the powder coat. So I've already done that and I painted them. So now I'm going to back these out. Since we're going to tie these all in together and Loctite everything, I'm going to take these center bolts out, and they actually have to be shortened because they're too long, so they won't actually be able to tighten this up or even clamp the rear cover. So I'm going to pop these out. I'm going to trim them up. They actually give you spacers to aid with clearancing, but they're just still not enough. You can see it on the back here. It's a washer that's been ground down, and it actually does fit inside the differential. So here's a trick I use to actually cut these bolts down. I chuck them up in the drill, just push it till this flat surface is resting inside the drill chuck, and spin it, just to make sure that the bolt is actually spinning true. And then I'll go ahead and take a grinder and I'll cut a couple threads off. There you go. You got 2 equally cut bolts. Get torqued to 50 foot-pounds, and the cross member bolts also get torqued to 50 foot-pounds. And lastly, the hex head bolts that are 7/32 hex. You want to torque these to 30 foot-pounds. Alright, so with our block and our washers held in place, you got the thick end here and the thinner end facing outward. So we're going to slide these in, just like that. Then we're going to take our pin. The pin has to slide in after the fact because it locks in with that rear and it'll be flush with the back there. So that's pretty much that assembly. We'll go ahead and install a bolt. It's a nylock. So this rocker pivot bolt gets torqued to 30 foot-pounds. So now we can install the thick washer inside the trailing arms and install the trailing arm support bracket. These guys face in, see the blocked off end faces out. We're going to basically go up in there. I'm going to put them in before you have this control arm fully seated. And this bottom bolt gets torqued to 100 foot-pounds. So now we can install these plates, and they basically get installed right on top. Now we can install the 1/4 inch set screws we have got here. So they'll go in from the side. Two 1/4 inch bolts. And one 5/16 bolt with a nylock. So you're going to want to put the 5/16 bolt in the back here. It's an elongated slot that goes through the hole for the sway bar mount. Then it comes back to the shocks. Something I found out, you want to actually replace this top piece that comes in the Viking coilover kit. Here we have our Viking shock. We are going to be changing out the shock tops for these extended ones. So I'm just going to clamp this in a vise to get it done. There we go. So next up, we're going to grab our rod ends. You have to assemble them to the point where they are as short as possible. And they're going to be installed with these 1/2 inch by 2.5 inch bolts. I'm going to grab our spacers. We are going to use thick spacers on the bottom and thin spacers on the top. So at this point, they want you to connect it to the top of the rocker, but then that's going to put some weight and make the rocker flip this way. I like to install the shocks first. Now the upper part of these links get the thin washers. And these bolts actually just get snug. Now, let's look at what we got. Well, that pretty much sums it up here for the SharkBite rear coilover suspension setup. I still have some more work to do since we're doing a complete rebuild on the whole rear end of the car. The next video I'll be installing the drive shafts as well as the strut rod bracket and the optional adjustable strut rods themselves. And that'll pretty much sum it up. Once we do that, then we'll have to set this thing on the ground. We'll have to set the ride height and do some adjustments. So we got some work to do on the front suspension as well, so look out for that in a future video. So if you found this useful, definitely give me a like. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're working on something similar to this, or you have any other tips that might help some other people out, feel free to comment down below. And I appreciate you guys watching. I will also post a link when the final end of this build is up, as well as some of the past videos on this 74 Corvette. I'll post them up here in the card section. So that's about it. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.